I live in Bordeaux, and Aquitaine is my backyard, and that's where I go for my inspiration. I'm actually fascinated to walk in places, whether it's within an architectural setting or whether it's within a landscape setting, where you go, people have walked here for a long time. And in Europe, you walk in places where history took place, where people walked for hundreds of years. To be in the landscape, to be part of it, and as fully immersed as I can be, while observing at the same time. And that's how I start this whole process. Finding your own voice is the hardest part of the journey, I think, for any artist. We start with passion and a love of creating work. I wanted to create my own calligraphy, and collage allowed me to do that. Once I started to develop that, I wanted to play with the pieces and use them in a variety of different ways. From the use of the papers and the paints or the inks, whether it's acrylic or watercolor techniques or whatever the style I was using. Growing up, I lived in Australia. And I grew up in a country area. So the countryside was always a big part of my life. And the freedom, even as a child, to wander and roam played a huge part in my development. For Aquitaine, what I love is the vastness of the landscape, the vastness of the skies, but the beauty that you see around you that moves from coastal region into hills and farmlands and more forest regions. I think the most important piece is going into the landscape and feeling a part of it and creating collage in situation, whatever that might be. But coming back to the studio, that work starts with what had been the original premise. I'm never quite sure if the journey is going to go in the way I had mapped it or planned it. It actually very often and mostly takes me in another direction. Then the construction, the putting together, the layering, the working back into it goes from a planned position, but then takes its own pathway, takes its own life, and I see it evolving, sometimes very differently to what I had thought it was going to be. Another area of the creative process for me in my life has been so many years of doing creative work in the theatre. I was moving a lot, and I wasn't settled in one studio space. The creative process must include the viewer. In the world of theatre, working with the three-dimensional elements, whether they're costume or lighting or choreography, similar feeling came to me with the collage pieces, that I was able to use those to create this layering and this journey that you would like people to experience as they can move through the work and connect with the work. Working with collage allows me to have a depth. I think it also, for me, allows me to play with what did I initially see that clearly is the obvious or the positive? And as I go further, is the negative more powerful than the piece that I originally had seen? And I want the viewer to have that experience also, to be able to feel that. What I first saw is not exactly how it is perceived, but it has another depth to it and another layering to it.